Still cracks me up the way I can quiet a room full of atheists by saying bless you when somebody sneezes. I must have seen this half a dozen times at least. I say bless you and the jukebox scratches to a halt and all the conversations and glass clinking stops. Everybody looks at me like I just talked shit about Two Gun Willie. Look, my mom taught me to say bless you when people sneeze the same way that she taught me to say excuse me when I burp. And but for wondering why burping obligates me to say something while sneezing obligates you, I never gave it any more thought. People sneeze, I say bless you, they say thank you. It's all this meaningless, instinctive, weird little social custom. Now, I'm certainly not denying it has religious connotations. I don't say God bless you, but come on, who the hell else blesses people, right? I should probably say Gesundheit or some other secular alternative, but it's hardwired at this point. I don't think about saying it, I just say it. At you, bless you. And what's more, I'm not at all convinced that there's any real reason that I should stop saying it. I try because, as amusing as it is, I don't want to be the weird social pariah at the secular convention that just said the atheist N-word or whatever, but I also am not going to beat myself up when I fail. Of course, there's plenty of debate about this general issue in atheism, and a lot of atheist luminaries have made the argument that we need to scrub out religious language everywhere we can. We shouldn't say Merry Christmas. We shouldn't say bless you. We shouldn't say God forbid or Godspeed or Goddamn or God willing or they don't have a prayer or any of that shit. Others will argue that the more we secularize these phrases, the more we diminish religion's hold on them. They turn into archaic etymological novelties like dashboard or don't touch that dial. In other words, nothing deflates the sanctity of a term like bless you more than a bunch of atheists saying it to each other at an atheist convention. Now, I've read convincing arguments from both sides here, and while I lean towards the side that doesn't require that I tamp down on my now instinctual use of the term bless you, I fully recognize that it's easier doesn't amount to a valid refutation, so I could be wrong. But there is one phrase that I would be happy to never hear again. One that should make atheists vomit in their mouth when they try to say it, but somehow one I hear from atheists all the time. The last time I heard it, in fact, it was coming from arch-Jesus raper Bill Maher himself. He was talking about people who came out of the movie American Sniper all fired up to kill themselves, some Muslims, and he says, that doesn't seem like the Christian thing to do. I'm sorry, what? Killing Muslims doesn't seem like a Christian thing to do. Have you heard of history? Are you aware of its existence? Christians have been setting up Muslim killing franchises since at least the middle of the 9th century. Killing Muslims just might be the quintessentially Christian thing to do. Now, of course, what he means is that it didn't live up to the bullshit ideals that Christians espouse, but that's a shit way of saying it. Why would we define what a Christian thing to do is by anything other than what Christians actually do? If we were trying to determine what the Nazi thing to do is, we wouldn't look to SS propaganda for our starting point. I'm sure in their own minds, being evil wasn't the Nazi thing to do. But what does that fucking matter? When we say that doesn't seem like the Christian thing to do, it's almost like we're giving them a pass. It's like we're admitting on some level that Christianity is really about loving your neighbor and being charitable and saving blind puppies or whatever, despite our contrary experiences with Christianity, both in our history books and in our everyday lives. In my mind, the Christian thing to do is be exclusionary, selfish, homophobic, presumptuous, and childishly unreasonable. Now, of course, not all Christians are like that. Hell, not even most of the Christians I know are like that. Well, the presumptuous and childishly unreasonable bits, sure, but not the other stuff. But when I see the religion itself invoked, it's more often going to be for some exclusionary or bigoted purpose than for any other thing. It's going to be to remind everybody that God prefers Christians or Americans or heterosexuals, not to remind everybody to love their neighbors and be charitable. Look, there's nothing inherently moral about Christianity, and our language shouldn't suggest that there is. Christians don't commit less crime. They don't do better on tests of morality. They're not more likely to help a person in need. They're not less likely to kick a puppy for spite. They're good in precisely the same proportion that all the other segments of society are good, except for the bad people segment. Now, some would alter the phrase a bit and think that they'd solve the problem, right? Instead of saying that's not the Christian thing to do, they'll talk about how this or that Christian isn't following the example of Christ. But even that buys into their bullshit narrative of Jesus being this perfect guy. I mean, which Jesus are they not following the example of? Because there's plenty of different Jesuses in their book. If I walked into a currency exchange and started whipping people and throwing chairs through windows and shit, wouldn't I be following the example of Christ? If I chopped down a fig tree for pissing me off, or if I chose to buy expensive perfume instead of feeding the poor, or advocated domestic abuse, or killed demon pigs, wouldn't I be following the example of Christ? I don't accept that there's some dude named Jesus that was a paragon of morality and nonviolence, and neither does their book. When he told people he came to bring a sword, what do they think he was going to do with it? Open really big letters? Look, the Christian propaganda machine has been churning out this bullshit for almost 2 millennia now, and they've gotten so good at it that they can rape children in front of us without us referring to them exclusively as the child rapers. They'd love to say they have a patent on morality, but they don't even have a bead on it. When we talk about the Christian thing to do, let's make sure the Christians have the same burden to make that a positive statement as every other group. Until then, if I say somebody wasn't acting like a Christian, I just mean that they weren't conning money from gullible old women.